Have you ever thought about buying or selling a waterfront home? In today's video, I want to talk about some things that a lot of folks don't take into account when they're considering the value of a home that's on the water. And we're going to stay bird's eye view on a lot of these topics, but as you're considering a home to either buy or sell, I think knowing some of these things can play a big role in how much the home is worth. So who am I? My name is Josh. I'm an agent with Bragg & Company Real Estate in the Northern Neck and Middle Peninsula and surrounding areas in Virginia. If you're buying or selling a home in the area, I'd love to earn your business, and I'll put my contact information down below. Let's dive into this. The first one is pretty simple, and that is the depth of the water. So if there is a dock or a pier built at the property, a lot of times they'll say, what is the MLW? If you hear an agent say that, they're basically saying, what is the depth of that water at low tide? And whatever that number is plays a big role in what size boat you can have there, what type of boat you can have there, and it can also affect the value of the home. In fact, in some real estate listings, they'll even have what the depth is in the listing itself. So it might say 2 feet, 2 to 4, plus 4. I've seen properties that if you were to walk 30 feet out into the water from the shoreline, the water is still only up to your ankles. And I've seen other properties with a dramatic drop off right at the shoreline. And so very big difference, and it plays a big role in the value of that property. Another thing to consider is the views, because not all views are created equal. Some views might be kind of restricted because of trees. Perhaps adjacent properties can hinder the view of the water from a property. The body of water itself, so if the width of the creek or river is somewhat narrow and you're seeing another property across the way, or if you're seeing an expansive view of the bay or river, this all plays a big role. I have had clients specifically not be interested in a very beautiful home. Admittedly, they'll say, we love the home, but we don't love the view. We feel like we'll be downgrading in our view if we go from the house we're at to this house. In fact, a lot of potential buyers will make a complete decision just based on the view. They may not particularly love the home and plan to make changes to the home after purchasing, but fall in love with the view itself. Another thing to consider is the body of water that that home is located on, right? So if you have a piece of property that is located on a sought after body of water that has other luxury homes, that affects the value of that property. Or if you're on, out in the middle of nowhere and you're on a body of water that not as many folks are interested in, that also plays a role in the value. In our area, homes simply located on, say, Carter's Creek, Robinson's Creek, the Caratoman, the Rappahannock, or the bay itself, the Chesapeake Bay, homes that are located on some of these bodies of water that are highly desirable play a big role in the value of the home. Next, let's talk about waterways that are what we call shoaled waterways. Now, you might say, what are you talking about, Josh, here? And I'll dive into this, but this is a big one because as I go through this list of the things you need to think about that affect the value of the homes you're looking at or maybe a home you're thinking about selling, when I see agents that are not from our area, it's a mistake that I see a lot of them make when they consider what the value of that home is. A home simply being waterfront in general is going to be more valuable than a home that's not. But if that waterway is what we call shoaled, a shoaled waterway simply means that there's a part of that body of water that has a very low depth, and a boat with a deeper hull would not be able to pass safely through that area. The body of water itself may be considered navigable, but you're not going to be able to leave your dock on your boat and say go to other parts of the area. You're not going to be able to go out of that shoaled waterway to the Chesapeake Bay or the Rappahannock River, or maybe you want to hop in your boat and go have dinner at a restaurant that night. Your options are limited. Now, I will say we have had clients that have said, I have no problems with the shoaled waterway because now I know other boaters will not be able to come up into our private feeling area of water. We're not going to see as many jet skis zipping by our property. Not all buyers are boaters. Some folks just want the peaceful waterfront scene with a dock to sit on, but have no desire to navigate anywhere with a boat. That's the great thing about the Chesapeake Bay. Here, there is a water presence for everyone. And again, unless you're working with an agent that knows the area, that knows the waterways that are shoaled, you could make a mistake in buying a property thinking that it's going to have complete access to other areas, and you won't. Another thing that affects the value of the property is the shoreline itself. There are different types of shorelines. There are what we call natural shorelines, where Mother Nature is doing its thing. There are other shorelines that have something called riprap. Riprap is basically a bunch of rocks that are built up on a shoreline to protect it in some way, protect it from erosion, protect it from the waves. The shoreline could have a bulkhead that's been built, and that bulkhead is essentially a retaining wall that protects the shoreline. Now, obviously, some of these types of shorelines will require future maintenance, and that's something you need to consider, but knowing that there's protection there can also affect the value of the home. Other types of shoreline, like whether or not it has a sandy beach located on the property, or if there's marsh there, that can all affect the value of the property. Some folks desire different things, and not all shorelines are created equal, which means all of these different types of shoreline can affect the value of the home. And that leads right into something we call the RPA. The Chesapeake Bay Preservation Act says there are certain things that cannot be done within so many feet of the shoreline. And that's why working with an agent that knows the area, that knows the rules with the RPA, knowing these rules can play a big role in future headaches, the value of your home, and whether or not you would be able to market the property in the future. Some have said that the RPA is a problem, that they wish they could do this or that, but I've always thought that the RPA is a good thing. It protects you from your neighbors doing certain things as well. It not only protects the environment, but it can also protect your view. It can protect the overall appearance of the area. And again, working with an agent that knows all these rules will mean you're making a good decision. And speaking of good decisions, I would like to ask you to make the decision to hit that like button down below. And if you're not subscribed to our channel, to hit that subscribe button, because we're going to do more videos giving you tips and tricks when it comes to real estate near the coast of Virginia. I've got just a few more, one being upgrades to the property, such as improvements, boat lifts, boat houses, docks, piers, all of that play a role in the value of the property. What size that boat lift is, whether or not the dock has water and power going to it, all of these things are desirable features when someone's looking at a home. Other things like nearby properties or amenities. So if you're able to, say, get in your boat and be able to go to a nearby restaurant and have dinner, other amenities like being close to, say, the Tides Inn, which is an amazing resort located in Irvington, Virginia. You could do all kinds of things there, such as have dinner, play golf. They have a spa there and other accommodations and activities. I'll put a link to the Tides Inn down below. They did not sponsor this video, but if you want to get more information about the Tides Inn, I'll put a link to their website down below. Finally, some other considerations you need to take into account are things like, is the property in a flood zone? That could affect the value of the property. What's the elevation of that property? What's the length of the actual shoreline? And whether or not the community around it has any amenities. Is it in an HOA? And does that HOA have amenities like a boat ramp or a dock? I went to a community just the other day that had a beautiful sandy beach and picnic tables everywhere that folks can spend a day doing all kinds of activities. Again, all of these things can affect the value of that home. If you're buying or selling a home in the northern Navigable Peninsula of Virginia, again, I'll put my information down below. Did I miss something that you think plays a role in the value? I'd love to hear about that down in the comment section below. And finally, if you like this video, I think you'll like this one too. It's where I talk about Kilmarnock, Virginia, and some of the things there are to do there. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button for more down by the bay. We'll see you next time.